The number one thing about Web3 is it allows for censorship-resistant things, censorship-resistant money, censorship-resistant data, censorship-resistant software. The idea of taking large language models and putting them on a blockchain so nobody can deny access to them, to anybody, to a bad person or a good person, is such a powerful idea. That is why this technology is so important, and it's why it scares the fuck out of the government. That's why the government's trying to kill this industry here in the United States right now, because they're scared to death of it.
Can I just make one point? There's been a broad push within DC around
In the second portion of today's video breakdown, I want to really focus on some Aave connection, or sorry, excuse me, not some Aave connections, but this is the gentleman from Aave, and he's just talking about how, they're literally in the process of changing money. And then I want to get into showing you guys some video clips of Stacy from the Algorand Foundation going on to talk about this changing of money and how we're going to be able to earn yield with our digital assets 24/7 up until the very last moment in which we spend them through the utilization of DeFi rails and real world asset tokenization, and how we're going to be able to invest in fragmented pieces of real estate through real estate asset tokenization and whatnot, and how that's happening right now live on the blockchain on Algorand through protocols that are being built out right now. And anyways, long story short, I'm just going to show you guys some physical proof that this is happening, and it's happening in a regulated manner for the first time ever. So all the people that have this outdated mindset that DeFi is not falling into the regulatory requirements, or it's being compliant, or that there aren't regulations falling into place as we speak, are not paying enough attention. They're not doing enough research. And again, I encourage you guys to go out and open these documents or tap into a like-minded community that does all the research literally every single day, 24/7, of the day, and does it for you to fast track your process and not have to go out there and do it yourself. Tap in with us, right? So that's what we're going to do in the second portion of today's video breakdown. I'm going to show you guys that info. Aqua, you unmuted. Did you have something to say, bro?
No, I was just going to mention Lofty, where I was just thinking about it, and Lofty gives us the ability to become real estate investors without going the old-fashioned route today, right now, on blockchain, on Algorand. So it's so wild, the possibilities. And when you word it like that, I feel like hopefully that will, bend somebody's ear to be like, damn, now the seed is planted, and go check out Lofty, because dude, Lofty is ahead of the game. I don't see another protocol like Lofty. And the fact that it sits on Algorand, and how many properties are on there where you could legitimately connect your wallet and become a real estate investor right now, today, and all you have to have is like $50. It's pretty mind blowing. You know what I mean? So,
honestly, bro, we could even full circle back to that, because, bro, if you go and you look at what just took place, it's not just on the Algorand blockchain, bro. XRPL just announced this exciting milestone this week, right? Real estate tokenization in Dubai. This is from 1 week ago, XRPL Commons, right? And then also, it's not just, XRPL. If you go over to the recent post from the Hedera Foundation, they just announced this with Zonix. We're excited to announce the Stage X, the institutional real estate platform, tokenizing $100 million right now plus of real estate. This is huge news, all stuff that's just recently taken place. And people aren't paying attention. They're not paying attention to Red Swan and Hedera and what they've been doing with tokenized real estate.
And when you've got players like BlackRock jumping into the space, and we work with Janice Henderson, you've got big asset managers who are committed to being in the tokenized space in the funds industry. I think every asset manager we talked to in the past year has wanted to get in. So the conversations with those asset managers 2 years ago were, why would we do this? And now they're, how do we do this? And when do we do this? And how, it's become inevitable. They see the momentum, they see BlackRock in the space, they can't fall behind. So they've got to jump in.
Yep. That rabbit hole goes deep, bro. But yeah, let's dive into this Algorand stuff real fast. And then it'll spiral us into the XRPL and XLR kind of connections there. And then it'll full circle us back to that, to the real estate, tokenization of real estate. All right, so this is a video breakdown of Stani from Aave. Sorry if his last name escapes my mind. But long story short, he goes on to talk about how they're in the process of changing money. And if you guys remember, I played a video clip of Sergey Nazarov, if that's how you say his last name, the co-founder of Chainlink, on a panel discussion at the beginning of 2025, saying that he believes that Aave is the next JP Morgan of blockchain, of Web3, of this new digital transformation.
And so the systems and the protocols in this case that provide that reliability, like Aave, because for me, Aave is basically the JP Morgan of DeFi, right? It's the reliable place to put your capital, participate in DeFi in a way that you have the lowest possible risk due to its reliability, its track record, and how seriously it takes security, right?
And anybody that has read the book, The Creature of Jekyll Island, understands firm that JP Morgan was a very big player of the Federal Reserve back in its early days, back when it was created, right, in the early 1900s. And so when you understand the importance of JP Morgan's involvement with any project or anything or any mention in this space, you have to understand that they will be a part of this new financial system, JP Morgan, right? And so for him to say something like that, and then for Stani to be sitting on stage at a recent event 3 days ago, literally telling everybody that they're in the process of changing money and how it works, how we're going to be able to generate yield, how we're going to be able to lend and borrow, and how all of this is happening over the next decade, right? You'd be, again, ignorant to ignore it. It would not behoove you to ignore this, what is happening. Go read The Creature of Jekyll Island and realize that they've created the financial system before, and now that is all happening again. It's a whole complete revamp of everything finance. And if you want to ignore that, then you risk falling behind. I'm just saying, this is more than just investing, buying, and hodling. This is the power of this new technology to become sovereign citizens again, to a certain degree, to a certain extent, because we're always going to be monetized. We're always going to be monitored. We're always going to be tracked, and we're always going to be somewhat drip-fed manipulation. But this DeFi thing, right? If you go look up, Aqua could talk about Reggie, right? And the king of DeFi, and go in patents and all that crazy stuff. DeFi is the new level playing field, right? It is what the governments and the system elites have all been fearful of for the longest time. Is
the number one thing about Web3 is it allows for censorship-resistant things, censorship-resistant money, censorship-resistant data, censorship-resistant software. The idea of taking large language models and putting them on a blockchain so nobody can deny access to them, to anybody, to a bad person or a good person, is such a powerful idea. That is why this technology is so important, and it's why it scares the fuck out of the government. That's why the government's trying to kill this industry here in the United States right now, because they're scared to death of it.
Us as sovereign people gaining back our financial power. And that's what DeFi does to the average person all over the freaking globe. It gives them the ability to operate on a level playing field with these institutions. And they know that, they being these institutions. And so what have they been doing over the past 5 years? Shifting that mentality. I mean, they started doing it a lot more, but they started only making it public about 5 years ago, right? Prior to that, they were all crypto's dead. It's not, it's a scam, stay out of it. Now, if you go pay attention, the whole entire rhetoric and sentiment has completely shifted. Institutions are here. BlackRock has made it public. JP Morgan just the other day announced a public blockchain integration with Ondo Finance for the first time ever in history.
What I've really subdivided the world is into two separate buckets. One world is what I call non-compliant capital. So pseudonymous, anonymous capital, which powers DeFi, Bitcoin purchases, cryptocurrencies, that world. That world for me, when it crossed 500 billion, I think reached kind of an escape velocity. Yeah. And you're right in that a lot of our technology and work came out of that world over the last 8 years at Chainlink because it was the place that was doing things on production, right? And you have to provide value on production in order to exist if you're not a big organization that provides value in other ways, right? At the same time, as we've been working with the DeFi community in parallel, we've been working with the TradFi capital markets community. This example with JP Morgan is one good example. Another good example is our work with DTCC before on something called SmartNav, where we put data about NAV calculation on chain for tokenized funds and this stuff and many other examples. The other category is the compliant capital category that the DTCC and JP Morgan are really the top two players, I would say. Like if I had a choice of the top two players in the US economy and maybe in the global economy in relation to the amount of capital and amount of things, it would be JP Morgan and DTCC. JP Morgan's the leading US institution, and the DTCC is the leading financial market infrastructure of the world, right? Yep. And we've had some amount of work with both of them that's now public. What I've found is that the non-compliant capital, and this is why I bifurcated this way, the non-compliant capital doesn't care about compliance. So they can just do things. They can build decentralized exchanges. They can build lending markets. They can build tokenized whatever. Even stablecoins, for me, kind of fall into non-compliant capital for their first iterations because they weren't doing it in like a super compliant way. They were like in a gray area, right? Now they're becoming compliant. Compliant capital is much, much larger. So non-compliant capital takes our industry from that 500 billion to 5 or 6 or 7 or maybe 10 trillion, in my opinion, depending on how much people want to allocate to cryptocurrencies. The compliant capital takes our industry to 100 trillion plus.
That's huge. Like this is all happening for the first time ever. All right. So listen to what the gentleman from Aave here says. Just take a second, proving to you guys that this is all happening. And this is going to roll us into some documents. I'll show you guys some documented proof from some large organizations in the game telling you guys that this is all happening. So just listen to what Stani says here.
Yeah, I guess institutions are a little bit easier because with the tokenization concept, there's a lot of value on that. So you will see a lot of asset managers that are already in the space. BlackRock as an example, and tokenizing these funds. So there's a great utility of using RWAs as a collateral, and in fact, Aave's Horizon initiative is perfect for this because Horizon creates as a first initiative a RWA market where you can use RWAs as a collateral, and that means that you can access 24/7 liquidity against your traditional assets, and that doesn't exist the same way in traditional finance. And then I think that some sort of
Didn't I just tell y'all that this is turning into a 24/7 system? I know I said it.
Yeah, bro. And dude, like what he's talking about, this is, I mean, just for like everybody to understand, like Aave is the #1 protocol in DeFi, hands down. They have the most total value locked. This is major. So to bring real world assets to their protocol as well is going to put them on steroids and human growth hormone at the same time. Like, bro.
this gets deeper. It goes. So let's continue to listen because it gets deeper.
Opportunity of packaging the yield that is in Aave in a more traditional form is going to happen. But the most interesting part is actually the consumers. So there's few kind of like a bottlenecks that has stopped us to go to like a real consumer adoption. And obviously one of them has been the regulatory headwind, which is actually getting better. We have stablecoin regulation coming in as well. Infrastructure, being able to actually scale. Like 2 years ago, transaction costs were very high. So if you think about transaction cost and Avalanche, for example, today, that's truly possible. And the user experience. So we are moving out of the kind of like a world where you have to install a browser extension and write seed words down and do all that and go to an exchange to acquire, convert a traditional asset into traditional currency into a stable coin, and all that has to disappear basically. And I think that's what is going to happen in the next 12 months, and then you can actually build towards that end consumer audience.
So 12 months.
He said it's going to happen in the next 12 months. Pay attention to detail.
Months till the consumers come in.
At least the first ones. I think it's still like a long process. We need to obviously beat the interest rates in DeFi in a safe way. So we have to have sustainable yield at the same time. And I think it's really a long process. So we're end of the day changing finance. It moves slower because we're changing money and how it works. It has so deep. We're end of the day changing finance. It moves slower because we're changing money and how it works.
Okay, so again, a man who Mr. Aqua just showed you guys has his biggest TVL DeFi platform out there, right? One of them, and is doing work with institutional partners. And the gentleman from Chainlink, Sergey, said that he thinks Aave is the next JP Morgan. Like, and you got him sitting on stage talking about how they're changing money, real world asset tokenization, lending, borrowing, providing liquidity, all this stuff, right? This is happening regardless if you want it or not. Okay. And to neglect this portion of crypto is illogical.
Yeah, 100%. And let me just say something too, real quick, because like this opportunity that he's talking about, like, let me just give you guys a hypothetical situation, not financial advice, right? But let's just say you become an XRP multimillionaire. Why would you go to a bank to get a loan to buy a house when you could borrow against your XRP? Borrow against your XRP, go buy the house, cash. Tokenize the house is paid off cash with the XRP. Now use the liquidity and use that to go earn yield to now pay back the house. This is all hypothetical. This is not financial advice. I'm just telling you the capabilities that we're going to have at our fingertips. And if being your own bank is, you know, lending and borrowing, yo, I just gave y'all some gems straight up.
Bro, I swear to God, man, I love having conversations with you. You get me so hyped because, again, back to what one of our members said, this is what you just said is so intellectual. Like, for somebody to understand what you just said, this is not no meme coin space right now. That was such an intellectual statement. The ability to run a looping strategy, in a sense, is what you just talked about. I have physical proof, bro. Right. Well, matter of fact, let's fast forward. I showed physical proof last week on our call. This is Drift Institutional, right? This is Apollo's new, you know, securitized platform, Drift Institutional. Okay. And you got the institutional tab up here where institutions can go and literally do exactly what you're talking about. They can go, they can provide liquidity, they can lend, they can borrow against their assets, and they can literally go into looping strategies. This is happening. Exactly what you just mentioned is already taking place in a regulated manner from regulated entities. That's crazy. You know, people are doing it right now. I mean, somebody did it the other day in the CYPRX community. They went and they freaking lent out their XRP, borrowed against it on Metal, right? Isn't that the platform?
Yeah, on the loan protocol, bro. Yep.
On the loan protocol? Yeah. It's crazy stuff that's happening. Back to some more just documentation to wrap that part of the spiel up. Because I don't like, you know, just saying this stuff for no reason that banks know. They know that they're going to get swept under the rug. This is a post that the researchers found from Greenidge. And I said here, Greenidge is a UK-based fintech company specializing in bridging traditional financial services with digital asset innovation. DeFi is not something banks can just sweep under the rug. This is a document, a white paper. And it says it right here. It says, DeFi, therefore, the opportunities that distributed ledger technology and by consequence DeFi can bring is not something banks can just sweep under the rug or dismiss as trivial, the way that they largely have done with crypto over the last decade. So when I say, you know, it would probably behoove you to pay attention to what we're talking about. It's not because I just woke up in the morning and I'm trying to convince everybody that this is the new wave. It's because the research tells you otherwise. The research doesn't tell you this is all a scam. The research tells you this is freaking happening. I said here in this post, this is from an institutional data analytics fundamental provider, right? They provide analytics to institutions, this BRN organization. Okay. This is the 2025 Digital Asset Outlook, where right in it, the lead analyst at this organization, go look up BRN and who they are. So that way, you know, it's a gentleman with credentials, not some random like Twitter enthusiast. And they say right here, DeFi continued to evolve in 2024, growing its value locked in TVL by approximately 40% year over year as institutional players increased their participation. This adoption has been driven by real-world use cases such as JP Morgan's execution of forex trades using DeFi protocols. Forex trades. Go look at how big the international forex markets are, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? And then go look at the announcement that JP Morgan just made with Ondo Finance for the first time ever in history.
Of Chainlink. And so really right off the bat, there was an exciting announcement this morning with JP Morgan, Ondo, and Chainlink. So Alex, Sergey, would love to just allow you guys to maybe spend a couple minutes to talk through what that was and what you're looking to enable with that.
Yeah, want to go for it?
Yeah, sure. So the Connexus payments solution from JP Morgan, which has its own kind of payments chain for cash settlement, is now able to be used to do the cash leg, the payments leg of a delivery versus payments transaction for delivery of an asset on the Ondo chain. And that asset is like a tokenized treasuries product. And the interesting thing about this is that cash settlement chain on the JP Morgan side, which has been working well within the JP Morgan infrastructure for many years now, is now for the first time being connected to external public chain systems. So it's part of this larger trend of where institutional chains and institutional systems are being connected to public chain systems, where they're finding more and more high quality assets. In this case, a tokenized treasury from Ondo. And so it's kind of showing that trend is very real.
JP Morgan announcing a full-on integration and partnership with a public blockchain, like straight out the boat. Crazy.
Bro. And once all that liquidity, once that all happens and gets it put into fruition, bro, like you're talking trillions of dollars, bro. Trillions. Like this is, man, what's coming, bro, is going to be, it's going to be so mind-blowing in my opinion. Like this is like a once in a lifetime, you know, place and time to be in history and be aware of all this stuff, bro. Like, oh my God, like this is crazy. Super crazy.
And since we're on that topic, like Ondo is not sleeping. Like they know exactly what's going on. Zodiac Custody one day ago just posted this. Zodiac Custody clients can access yield-bearing U.S. Treasuries on-chain with USDY securely held through our institutional-grade platform. Powered by Ondo Finance, USDY blends stability, utility, real-world assets backing, giving institutions a compliant, flexible solution for liquidity management and daily yield potential. And they just partnered with JP Morgan, who's in this document that we got right here. This gentleman saying this to you guys. You know, this is all crazy stuff. And if you look at the USDY product that Ondo in this post is talking about, USDY right here, USDY blends stablecoin utility. Well, who partnered with Ondo to power interoperability for all this stuff? Yield-bearing stablecoins, cross-chain Ondo XLR, right? Ondo Finance, the leading issuer of tokenized secure notes and on-chain treasuries, joined forces with XLR, the leading Web3 interoperability platform, to produce Ondo Bridge, an innovative cross-chain solution inspired by Circle's cross-chain transfer protocol. The Ondo Bridge simplifies the movement of Ondo tokens, such as yield-bearing stablecoins like USDY, across blockchain networks for seamless user experience. And frickin' JP Morgan just partnered with them, y'all, and proved right here. Look at this. Using a DeFi protocol, they demonstrated the execution of fucking forex trades. Just go look at how big the forex market is.
Is now able to be used to do the cash leg, the payments leg of a delivery versus payments transaction for delivery of an asset on the Ondo chain.
People, this is crazy. This is the future. DeFi is the new wave. DeFi protocols will see broader integration with TradFi, including tokenization of traditional assets like equities and bonds. So let's get back to, you know, I'll show you guys one more evidential document that just came out from Signum Bank, just to show you guys that institutions are for a fact participating in DeFi and in yield generation capabilities with digital assets that everybody knows, like Solana, right? And DeFi yields coming to the XRPL, it's coming to XRP. People don't think so, but it's coming. It's already on Solana. It's already on Ethereum. It's happening right now to Bitcoin. Signum, 3 days ago when I took this screenshot, and this is a post from May 30th, enables staked Solana as collateral as Lombard loan volume doubles. And it mentions right here in this post, Switzerland, May 15th, this allows Signum clients to unlock liquidity from their staked Solana holdings while continuing to earn staking rewards, creating a dual income potential from a single crypto asset. That is a huge statement right there. Dual income earning potential from a single crypto asset. And the gentleman from our community, Alejandro, mentioned opening up an LLC and creating a DeFi business. You guys see how powerful this stuff is that we're saying right now?
I was like, they're talking about liquid staking. That's that double dip liquid staking right there. I love liquid staking, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it says right here, by enabling staked Solana as collateral, we are addressing a key client need to optimize yield while maintaining liquidity. And it's literally talking about, you know, freaking liquid staking Solana, having the ability to go out, do what you need with it, you know. They talk about XRP up here in this document as well, that they offer this as an investment feature, but it's not a staked version, of course.